Okay, I'm going to continue on our topics, shall we? So I'm going to go to, now it's going to be at C4, grouping. Shall we do some grouping? Okay, so grouping is actually quite powerful. It's and a lot of times, what you want to do is actually kind of applying, like grouping your data based on some columns, and then you want to apply things into that particular group, and then get the results back. And I think if you kind of master this concept right here, you're gonna feel a lot more powerful when you deal with data. Okay, so you'll see what I mean. Okay, although this one, I would admit that it takes some time to get used to this concept because, and sometimes I find it a little confusing. Okay, but bear with me, shall we? So I'm gonna import Panda as always. Okay, and we're gonna go straight into the data because we need some amount of data to demonstrate how grouping works. Okay, I'm gonna do that. Okay, so right now I have the data called drinks. Okay, maybe you can look at the original data just to make sure that you kind of know what it looks like. Okay, so these are data that has a country, and it talks about the consumption of beer, spirit, wine, and alcohol. And then there are countries, and then there are continents of that countries. Okay, and the data is not that much, about 200 rows, but you can see how grouping works in action. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna load it. Okay, look at the head and things like that. Okay. Again, without doing anything else, we should check if there's some missing value, and then we can take care of it, okay, as usual. So I'm going to say drink.info. The drink's going to be S, okay. Again, you can see that there are definitely some missing data in here because we need 193 entries per columns, okay. So we're going to take care of it. I think we should take care of it, okay. Again, create the Boolean filter for row width. So we want to see, which row has missing value. Just want to check, why do we have missing value, okay? So I'm going to say drinks.isNA. So that's going to give me all the cells that has missing value, right? But I want the row only. So there is actually one convenient method that I can do. So any, okay. So any will actually give me the columns that has the missing data, right? But then I don't want the column, I want the row. So I'm going to say axis equal to 1. And that's actually give me similar things that I was telling you, since the last topic, like Boolean like this. Okay, if you see Booleans like this, you can use it for filtering. Okay, so I'm going to filter just to see which row has missing values, okay? So this one is going to be filled, right? And then I'm going to put this back into drinks. Okay, filled. And that will give me all the rows that has missing data, okay? And you can see that all the missing data belongs to the continent, okay? So I don't know why this one doesn't have continent, right? But again, we don't have to deal with, we don't need to understand that right now. But I think we want to do something with it, okay? So I want to at least fill in the continent that has missing data with unknown. Actually, although we know it, right? But then just, fill it in with some default values. So I'm going to say drinks, right? And then continent. And then I'm going to say fill NA with unknown, okay? And that's it. You can do that, right? But this one, again, just kind of previewed it. But if you want to put it back into your original data, then you need to use assignment. So equal, and then drinks with the continent again, and then do that. Okay, so that will give you the new kind of like the column with non-missing value. So I'm going to do drinks.info one more time just to make sure. .info. And again, you can see that now my continent is taken care of, okay? All right. So next stop is, you know what? I want to analyze my data. But I don't want to analyze my data according to the country because that's too detailed. I think it makes more sense to actually analyze, all of this consumption, but then based on the continent, because that's more like a good way to kind of get the overall pictures of consumption. Okay. So what I want to do is actually I want to group the country according to the continent. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to say group by. Okay. So I want to say drinks.group. Okay, I want to group the drinks, right? And this one I can say by, actually group by, okay? And then I want to say by equal continent, okay, like that. Drinks.group by, and then by what column, okay? If I were to execute this, you can see that whatever returned to me is actually like a new variable, type. It's called Panda data frame group by. It's a new object. Okay, and this one doesn't have, you cannot visualize the data in it just yet. But what I want you to kind of have your, visualize in your head is like, this is actually almost like you are making multiple Google Sheets. So it's almost like this. If I were to go back to my data, let me just kind of create a mock data right here, okay? So let's say I just copy some things in here, okay? Like that, okay? When you say your data and you say group by, it is as if you are creating a lot of sheets in here, okay? Each of the sheets will have the name equal to the group. So for example, this way I would have AS in here, I will have EU in here, for example, okay? And then I will have, SAs in here, okay? And again, if I have unknown, if I were to have unknown in here, this one will be unknown, okay? So when I say panda.group by, it was as if I create multiple sheets in here, and then I separate all the data into respective sheets based on, the continent, basically. So what I'm doing is I copy all the data in here, okay, like this, right? And then I only kind of sort the value correspond to what it is. So this one will just have AS in here. This one only have EUs in here, so let me just kind of do it here. So EU, right? The rest is gone like that. Like that, I have EU, right? This one just SA is in here, so SA is one of them. Okay, and then the unknowns. Okay, so the unknown like that. Okay. So you can imagine that if your original data is like this, where you have multiple continents, right? When you do group by, it's as if you are separating your data into separate Google sheet, Excel sheets, okay? And that's what this Panda group by object is. So multiple sheets. And that is exactly why if you run like this, then you cannot visualize your data just yet because there are multiple sheets. If you want to see something, you kind of have to go into the sheets and then look at the, each sheet one by one if you want. Or you have to perform some type of operation and then bring the data back into kind of like the main sheet. Okay, so think about data frame group by as multiple Excel sheets. Okay, so that's how I want you to internalize this concept. Okay. All right. So first of all, let's just check if how many unique continents there are in the data sets. I can say, oh, actually, I want to put this into a variable called drink group with the D, because that's quite long. Okay. So I'm going to say drinks grouped, right? Dot n groups. Okay, so right now I have 6 groups, and that's exactly based on the 6 unique continents in my data. Okay, So you can internalize this as having 6 Excel sheets. Okay, each sheet corresponds to the data with a particular continent. Okay. All right. So I wanna. So the next thing is we are going to perform some operation on each Excel sheets. Okay, there are 6 sheets in here. We wanna kind of like asking. So what do we want to do with each sheet, right? So first, I want to see what are the number of rows in each of the Excel sheets that I have. So I'm going to say drinks, grouped, right? And then I'm going to do size. Okay? And as you can see, whatever I got back, this is actually going to one of each of the 6 sheets, and then just asking how many rows are there in each of the sheets. Okay? Another way that I can do is actually do drinks group, right, dot count. And that will give me actually even more information. Okay, again, when you see continent like this, this is actually going into each of the sheets, right, and then extracting the number or some information out and then put it back together based on the sheet name. Okay, so the sheet name called AF, you know, there are some of these columns, right? And we're going to count the number. So the number is just a number of the non-missing data, so they're all the same. Okay, so usually if you just do size, it makes more sense, but count is a little bit more detailed. So sometimes if you have the missing value, then it will show up in here too. Okay. The next thing is I want to get the number of unique value in each column for each continent. Okay, let's do that. So drink, group, okay. And I want to do which number of unique value with, okay. Okay, so I can just pick one column in here. So let's check this one out. So I'm going to say beer serving, okay. I guess beer has to be with S, serving with S. Okay, wait, nope. Beer serving, I misspell, S-E-R-V. Okay, and then this one is actually, I want to go into each of the sheets and then targeting this particular column. And what do I want to do with it? I want to count the number of unique values in here. So N, unique. Okay, and that's what it is. Okay, so when you do all of the group operation in Panda, visualize it as you go to each of the Excel sheet. What do you want to target? Right now, I want to target this column in each sheet. And I want to apply this particular operation, which is to count the number of unique items in that column in each sheet. And then taking all the result back into the main, I guess the main table, and then just show it like this. Okay. Again, this is the sheet name, basically, corresponding to the unique continent. Okay. So it's a lot of things that it does behind the scene for you. But if you kind of master this concept, it's actually quite powerful way of analyzing your data. Okay. All right. So another thing I can do is I want to take the first row from each sheet. Okay. I can do that pretty easily. So drinks grouped, right? Again, this one going into each sheet. What do I want to do with it? I want to take the first row from each sheet and then sum it and then take it out to the main table like that. Okay. Again, this is the sheet name, right? And then these are the row, the first row in each of the sheets. Okay. I can also get the last row. Okay, so the name is going to be quite self-explanatory. So group.last. Okay, so that will be the last row from each of the continent or each of the sheet. Okay, or for some reason, if I want to get the second row, then I can also do drinks group, right? Dot. Now I never use this one, so NTH and then just 1. So index 1, meaning it's the second row from each of the sheet. Okay. Okay? And if I want to get the mean beer serving, again, this one you have to think about each of the steps, right? So first, I want to go into each of the sheets, again, drink group, right? But I just want to target this particular column called beer serving in each of the sheets. Okay? But what do I want to get back in return? I want to calculate the mean value. There you go. Is that cool? So think about the things you need to do in order to do this if you have to do it manually. It's actually quite a lot. You have to separate the data. You have to calculate the actual operations, and then you pull out, and then you have to kind of summarize all the result back into the main table. It does everything for you with just one line. So that's what I kind of, that's really cool, right? Okay. If you just want to go into particular sheets, you can do that too. Okay. For example, I want to go to the sheet called AF, okay, Africa, right? I can do that too. So what I can do is I can do drinks group, right? But I want to get group. Okay. So that would be going into the specific sheet called AF. And if I do that, then these are the data for the Excel sheet called AF, right? As you can see, that's the same continent. Okay? So if you can, as you can imagine that if I want to go into another continent, then I can just keep changing this, right? SA, and I got something too, something like that, okay? Pretty cool. If I just want to see just the beginning or just a couple, just couple rows, then I can just do head too. Okay. Another thing I can do is if I want to see the group name. So sometimes I want to see what are the sheet names in my Excel sheet, right? I try to make a comparison back to Excel. Then I can say drinks group, okay, and I can just say dot group dot key, okay. Whoop, I think I make mistakes in here. Drinks group dot groups with the S, okay, dot key. Key with S2. Okay, I misspell a lot of things in here. Okay. As you can see here, that if I say .group .key, then I get all the key, which is essentially kind of like the name of the sheets that I separated out, right? If I want to make all this back into the list, like an ordinary Python list, I can just say list, and then I would just put the parentheses surrounding this. Then I get the name of the sheets, okay? And then if I want to get the data for the first group in the list, which is Africa, then actually I don't even need to, I just kind of use this data right here. So I want to put this one into group list, okay? Like that. So I keep all the names that I know will be valid, right? And then I can say drinks group, right? And then I want to say get group, and then group list of 0. So that will be Africa. And now I can say group list of 1, then that will be another continent. Okay, so that's kind of like a way for you to make sure you have a dynamic content, right? You don't hard code the name of the continent, but you get the things from the list, and then you use the item in the list. Okay, so that might be useful if you want to make your code a little bit more robust. Okay. Okay, and then I want to iterate over each group and display the group name and the first row of the group. Okay, let's do that. Okay. Again, I can also do iteration. For example, my drink groups, okay, dot group, okay. So wait, what is that group? Okay, actually I can even do this. So I can do 4, okay. and then some things in here. So I can do I in. Because drink group is actually containing multiple sheets, right? So then I can iterate each sheet using the for loop. Okay, similar to how I would be able to iterate over the things in the list. This thing is kind of like a list, but a list of a lot of things, right? So I can do a for loop like this. If I were to print it out, then you can see that there are a lot of things in here, you know. But actually, what I got from here is actually a tuple of two things. It's actually the name and the data itself. So actually, the way to do is actually separate it out. So I want to do key, right? That would be the name, and then the group. Okay, and if I were to just print the key, you'll see why. It's just the name of the sheets, okay? But if I want to kind of see the group itself, then I can display the group. And you can see the data like that. There will be 5 datas in here. Okay, that's a bit too much. So let me just do head. So I'm going to do dot head. And now you can see there are about 6 groups in here, right? And then correspond to each of the continents in here. So Africa, and then something like that, okay? I don't usually do this that very often, but if you need, you know, to extract your data out explicitly like this, then you certainly can. I never done this that often. Okay, but what might be quite useful is actually, you know, if you want to get the stats out from each of the continent, I think that will be something that you can do, you know, even in your project. Okay. For example, I want to get the mean beer and wine serving for each continent. Again, this one is like going into each of the sheets and then apply the mean operation on the columns and then get the result back and then compile into a main table. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to do drink group, right? Going into each sheet, right? And I want to target only 2 columns in each sheet. So beer serving, and I want to say wine serving. Okay. Again, going into each sheet and then targeting 2 columns. But what do I want to do with it, right? I want to take the mean value of each of the columns, okay? And if you run this, you're going to see that the result is pretty cool, right? So each of the sheets will have the mean serving for each of the beer and wines, okay? Think about, you know, the way that you would have to do this manually. That's actually quite a lot, right? But this one, just 1 line, and you get a lot of things done. So very, very powerful, but also I know it's quite convoluted. You know, you have to kind of wrap your head around this. Okay. Also, I can have, you know, going into each sheet, targeting just wine serving, and then get the stats out using describe. Also, this one super powerful too. So drinks grouped, right? And then I want to targeting for each of the sheet. I want to do wine serving. Okay. But then what I want to do with it, I want to get the stats. So I'm going to describe. And you're going to see what happens. It's really cool, this one. Okay. Again, for each of the continents, you know, I got all of the stats in here, separated by each continent. You see how cool this is? This is like a lot of things done in just a simple, you know, operations in here. Actually not simple, but very concise way of doing things, right? And you can even go crazy on this, you know, operation. So I want to have like different aggregation statistic from each of the continents. I can even do that too. So let me show you this. Drink group, right? And I want to do this. I want to target beer serving. Okay. And then wine serving, right? Servings, right? But what do I want to do with it? I want to have my own kind of like custom aggregation function. So I'm going to say add. So that's another kind of useful function. And this one, you can choose your own adventure, meaning that you can do, okay, I want mean, and you get the mean, okay? So you get the mean for each of the column that you targeted, right? But then that's not enough. I want to do min. So minimum of each of the column, I got the minimum, okay? I want the maximum. I got the maximum. You can see how powerful this is, you know, by just kind of putting things in here, okay? What else do I have? I have median, okay, like that. Okay, and you can even define your own function if you want to go into more depth in here. So a more advanced user, you can define what kind of operations you want to do from this. So again, you know, no matter how complex your operations are, your code is going to look like this. It's not going to get much complicated than this, actually. But you get a lot of things back, so that's what I really like. Okay. Okay. And the last one is actually, I guess, the most crazy thing, I guess the most complicated one. So I'm going to do drink groups, right? And I'm just going to say aggregate everything. So all the column, just show me things, right? I can even do this. I want to do a dictionaries in here. And then I want something like this. So the first column for the beer serving, I want min and max. Okay? I got it, right? So this is just the first column. But I can also have the second column. It's called wine serving, okay? But this one, I want different things. I want mean and median, okay? And you can do that. See, right now, the different columns that I have actually contain different stats from each of the continent. You see how useful this is, right? You how powerful this is. And then I can even have the next column, spirit serving, right? And that's going to be something else. Okay, so that's going to be mean and min. I don't know why I would do this, but certainly I can. Okay, so spirit serving will have different aggregation function. And then, you know, even country, I can just count it, right? So I want to do count. Oh, sorry, I make mistakes in here. So count, okay. There you go. So basically, I can kind of like tailor the results into whatever I need, depending on, you know, like all this specification. So definitely, I mean, this one is definitely quite overkill. But I just want to show you that, you know, you can do something like this, and the code actually doesn't look that much more complicated than the one we had before, right? So that's kind of the beauty of using this type of tool. Like once you learn it, then it's kind of, this is how you would use it, you know, no matter how hard your requirement is. Okay, so keep this in mind. You know, if you need it, then you come back to it. I think it will make more sense. Okay, it requires some getting used to, I would say. Okay, but just be aware that this one, you know, pretty powerful tool to use. Okay. Okay, so let me move on to another one called apply. Okay, so this one also will be quite powerful if you have, you know, really complex logic to use, okay? Okay, so first I want to run this cell just to make sure I have Panda. Okay, and this is kind of like a mock data, okay? Okay, it might be good if I show you how would this work in Excel too. So I'm going to output this one in Excel. So I'm going to say df.to Excel and just do like apply.slsx index equal to false. Okay, so for this, I just want to show you that I can do the same thing with Excel. Okay, like this. Okay, so I have two data in here, one in Excel, the other one in Panda. Okay, like this. Oh, I should close the drinks one. Okay, same thing, right? So what I want to do here is actually I want to make another column called marked with percent, like this. Okay, so I want to do this one, marked as a percent. I mean, why is it green? It's okay, all right, like that. Okay, and the formula would be to, I guess, divide it by 100, right? So what I can do is I can do equal sign, right? And then this one divided by 100. Wait, it's actually, what is the full scores in here? I have to have a full scores in here. Oh, okay, okay. Actually, just convert into a percentage string. Okay, got it. So this one is actually already in percentage. But what I want to do is to append things in. Okay, I totally forgot what I want to do. Okay, so the command would be concatenate. Okay, so concatenate like this. And then I want to concatenate this one with the dollar sign. Okay, and now I got 78 and things like that. Okay, pretty cool. I can do that in Excel. Okay, I want to do the same thing, but in Panda. Okay, how would I do this? Okay, so first you have seen this before, but very, very briefly. Okay, so what I want to do is actually I want to create the formula first. Okay, so think about this. The formula would look something like this, right? Concatenate. If you want to do it in Excel, it will be like concatenate formula. Okay, but here in Python, it would be a function. Okay, the function is like a formula in Excel. Okay, so I can make a function called make percent. Okay, the name doesn't really matter. Okay, but what matters is actually this function is going to accept one argument. Okay, and you can think about this argument as whatever you pass it inside this concatenate function right here. So like this guy over here, right? When you do it, you have to say, okay, this function is going to take in the input data, right? Same thing. When you define function in Python, like this function, you can imagine that it's going to take in some input, which is the column that we want, which is the mark column. But what do you want to do with it? You can do something with it, and then you can return it. Okay. So something that I can do right away, so I want to return, okay, whatever that function, whatever that value is, and then I want to add in the string, which is the dollar sign, the percent sign, okay. But I know that this value is going to be number. If I add number with string, it's going to give me error. So I have to make sure that this string gets converted to string, okay. So I want you to kind of see the similarity between whatever I show you here and here. Okay, so this particular function is the same thing as I would do here in Excel, kind of the same thing. Okay, so once you are convinced that we're doing the same thing, the next step is to apply this operation into whatever columns that you want. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to pick the column called marks, right? So I'm going to do df, right? df with marks, so that picking the column with the score, right? And I want to apply. Okay, so that's the name of this topic, apply, right? What do you want to apply it to? You want to apply a function called make percent, so that formula per se. Okay, that's it. Whoop. Okay, voice control. Whoop, nope. Okay. And you can see that whatever I got, it's actually the results that are identical to whatever this is, right? I want you to convince yourself that whatever happening on the left is actually the same thing as whatever you're doing in Excel, okay? And again, whatever the stuff that you got in here, it's just the result of the formula, right? But again, this is just a preview. So you haven't overwrite your data yet, okay? Or you haven't created a new column in your original data yet. So if you want to create a new column, then you got to do assignment, okay? So I'm going to do assign df with the name of the new column called mark %. And that's actually going to be the new column that appears on your data, okay? And there you go. You got it, okay? I think the confusing about using apply is that this apply is a special function. I think I kind of mentioned this one before. I just want to say it again. This apply is actually a function that takes a function as an argument, right? It's not a function that takes just a normal variable inside, because as you can see that make %, this is not a normal variable. This is a function. So this apply function needs a function as an argument, okay? And just want to make sure that you understand this. Like when I use this function, I don't call it like this. This one would be wrong. This is wrong, okay? I cannot have this parenthesis right here, okay? If I use it like this, it means that I'm calling that function right away, which is not what apply wants. The apply function needs just the function name so that it can go into each of the cell and apply that make % function into each of the cell. So it needs the name of the function. It does not need the function with the call, okay? So make sure you get that distinction, or else you're going to get some error that it's going to be like, you don't know why what's the error. So that's going to be quite a headache for you if you don't know this distinction, okay? So make sure no function call in the apply function, okay? All right, so let's move on. You'll see more example, okay? So I'm going to create a new column called pass, okay? Which, if it's true, if the score is larger than 70, and then if it's, I think if it's less than, I guess, I don't remember. So it's passed if the score is 70 or more, okay, in group A, and 50 or more if it's in group B. Okay, so that's a bit complicated, okay? Again, if I want to do it here, which I don't think I can do it here. I forgot how it works in actually in Excel, but there's another column called path in here, okay? And if the students are in group A, the pass criteria is 70. If it's in group B, the pass criteria is actually 50. Okay, and if I were to do in Excel, which I think I will fail because it's kind of too complicated for me, it's actually going to be like if, right? And then group equal A, true, false, something like that. Okay, that works. Okay. If it's in group A, it's kind of small. I don't know how to blow this thing up, but if it's in group A, then I need one more loops in here. So if, right, and then mark in larger than 70, pass, fail. I hope that works. Okay, that works. Okay, it's not bad. So I can do Excel now. Okay, and then another if is in here. If mark, but now it has to be larger than 50. Pass, fail. Wow, actually, I can do Excel now. Okay, so that will be the formula for Excel if you want to do whatever I described. So depending on which group you are, the criteria for pass-fail is actually different, right? And now actually I can just kind of drag this down and got whatever it is, okay? So as you can see that if you use Excel, then the condition can get pretty complex very easily, right? And then now, this one is a bit hard to maintain. But you can see that in Python, when you write in as a function in Python, it's actually quite easy to understand, to do the same things in here, okay? So let me show you. Again, I'm going to create a new function, okay? Again, this one will be a formula, right? And this formula is going to accept some things in here. But in here, it's actually called row, okay? Because keep in mind that in order to do whatever the formula is, right, we are going to accept two things. So the group and also the marks, right? And that two condition is going to give me the answer, okay? So right now, I cannot just accept the value. I want to accept the actual row so that I can extract whatever information I want. Okay, let me show you this. So first, the row is actually the series that contain all the data in each of the row. Okay, so if I want to extract the group, right, I can just do row group. Okay, and where does this come from? This one is actually the name of the column, basically the group column, which I have to do the capitalized letter like this. Okay. Next up, I want to do marks. Okay, equal row and then marks like this. Okay, and this marks right here is going to come from this column right here. Okay. And then once I got this information, everything's easy now because I can make the condition using the if loop that you have learned, at the very beginning of the class. Okay, so for example, if group equal A, right, I can return marked larger or equal 70. Okay, but then else, right, I can return marks equal or greater than 50. Okay, again, this particular logic is the same as what I would do in Excel, but the fact that I use Python functions actually gives me a lot of ways to express myself in a more readable way, like this. Okay, it works too. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so once I define the formula like this, then I can apply this one back into my my data. Okay, so I can do df, but right now, you know what? I don't want to do I don't want to pick any a particular column because I want to pass all the rows into my function. So this apply function is actually going to come from the whole data frame. Okay, so this is actually different from previous code where I have to pick a column first and apply it. Right, this one I apply to the data frame itself. Okay, and I'm going to do pass. Apply this particular function into it. And in order to make sure that I got the row into my function, I have to say axis equal to 1. Okay? And that will give me whatever the results that I would have in Excel if I actually do this. Okay? It's actually good. Pretty good, right? Actually, this one should be true or false. So, I should do true. False, like this. Okay, something like that. Okay, so true, false, similar, exactly like Excel. But as you can see that if you have more complex logics in here, then this apply function is actually going to be quite useful because you can define your function as complex as you can in Python, and then you kind of use this function into your apply later. So that's kind of the way that I would do. So I use this one very, very often. Actually, this one kind of turned out to be quite useful for me. Okay. Okay, so I want to show you what happened with the real data. Okay, so I'm going to show you this student math. I don't remember what it is, but let's check it out. Okay. Okay, so this one is actually the student data, okay, and it has a lot of things in here, a lot of columns, a lot of rows, okay. Okay, so not that much, about 400 rows, but in a lot of columns. So this one may be a good way to experiment with the apply function, okay? Because once you start to have the data with lots of columns, you're going to find it very, very cumbersome in Excel. For example, if you do this, right? I want to apply, use some formula, but I want to use the column back right about here and, do something with the columns in the middle. It's going to get more tedious, and then you're going to, it's very easy to make mistakes if you, if you have to refer to everything by just like the letter and the number like this, right? So this is where apply is actually quite useful if you use Panda, because you can refer to all the column with the name, and you're going to see why, okay, later. All right, so first I want to kind of do some basic data inspection. So just do information, df raw.info. Oh, I need to load it in first, okay? And then I want to do info, okay? All right, so the data is pretty good, about 395 entries, and there is no missing data at all, okay? So then we can kind of go on, okay? All right, so for the purpose of this exercise, so slide, I want to just make sure that I have a little bit less number of columns, so just for the illustration purposes, okay? So I'm going to slice it. So I'm going to say that I'm going to do df raw.log, right? I'm going to slide all the row, and the column is going to go from school to the guardian, okay? So that means that I have less number of columns just to kind of show you everything in one page. I think that's why. Okay, so I'm going to get df stu as my new variable, and then stu.head. Okay, and this is why, because if I have too many columns, it's kind of hard to show you in one page. Okay. Okay, and now it's the apply time. Okay. So I want to create the function that will capitalize the string, okay? So I want to capitalize this particular columns right here. So this is mother's job and father's job for each of the student, okay? So let's do that, shall we? So first, I want to make sure that I define my function first. Okay, this function, usually I use the name that makes sense. So this one called capitalizer. So capitalize things, okay? So you can do something like this. In Python, if you have a string, okay, the string have a method called upper. That's it. That's all you need to do, okay? So this one is a bit simple, okay? But you'll see a more complicated example later on. And now I want to apply this capitalizer to my columns, right? So I can do this, df stu, and I just pick the first column called mother's job, m job, okay? It's the J capitalized too? Nope. Okay, so the lower J, okay? And I want to apply the formula called capitalizer, okay? And that's it. If I just run this, you will see that I have, what do I have here? Oh, I forgot to return. I have to return it. Okay, there you go. I got the capitalized version of this columns, right? And if I want to rewrite it back into the original data, I can certainly use assignment in here. So df stu, and then m job, okay? Write it back into the original data, okay? There you go, okay? I want to do the same thing, but with the father's job, so f job, okay? So I can do the same thing, df, right, stu, f job dot apply, okay, and then capitalizer, like that. Okay, again, this one, capitalized version of it. and I want to write it back into my original data, then I will be df_stu and then f job. There you go. Okay. And if I would just do just check the couple lines real quick, then df_stu.head, it will show me that I should have a capitalized version of the column. Okay. Again, very easy to do, right? Okay, let's try something a bit more complicated, shall we? So I'm going to say, I'm going to create a function, okay, that will return true if the age is greater than 17. Okay, so this one is for determine if you can drink or not. So 17, it's a legal drinker age, okay? So I'm gonna pass in a function, right? It's called is legal drinker, and then the value, okay? So again, I can just kind of use the if loops in here if you want, okay? So imagine that this value should be the age, which is a number. So you can kind of imagine that the value is the age, right? So what do you want to do with the age? You want to see if it's larger or less than 17, right? So you can do if val is larger than 17, then I want to return true. But then if it's if not, right, I can return false, something like that. Okay. Okay. Relatively simple function, right? Again, I want to apply this formula back into my columns, right? So I can do df_stu dot apply, okay? And I will just say this function goes into the formula goes into this column. If I were to run it, then I get the I get the errors. Why? Oh, because I forgot the age. Okay, so I need to select the age column, and then I will do this. Okay, again, I got true and false, right? And this one, I can create a new column called legal drinker. Okay, so df still legal drinker. Okay, like that. Okay, and let me just kind of do the head functions in here. There you go. Now I can have another column that determines if the student can drink or not. Okay, pretty cool, right? So the fact that I like, what I really like about this kind of operation is that you kind of, you know what is going on, right? If you use Excel, then sometimes you have lots of columns, and now it's kind of hard to know which column is new, which column is old, because all you see is just the results of everything. Like you don't see kind of like the process of, you know, changing the data. So very, very useful for big data, I guess. Okay, and let's do something a little more complicated. So this one, I'm going to say that there's going to be age and sex, okay? So I'm going to use both age and sex to determine a couple things. So I want to group the student based on these two columns. So if it's less than 18 and it's female, then it's underage female, right? But then if it's you know, older than 18, and then you'll be adult, for example. So now the logic is going to get quite complicated if you have to do it in Excel. So this one might be a good example of using this type of tools. Okay. Again, if you need multiple things from, you know, like if you need things from multiple columns, then whatever goes into your function will be no longer be just a value, because I want the whole row. That's why I wrote the word rows in here, just to signify that whatever you're getting from this function, it's going to be the whole row, not just a value, okay? And whenever you get the row, then you can extract whatever value you want out from the row by just specifying the columns, okay? So I can do something like this. I can say, my row, I want to extract whatever from the column called sex, right? And I'm going to put that in a variable called sex, okay? And actually, I want to do age equal whatever the column's age from that particular row, okay? And then once I did this, then I can just go on with my logic, right? I want to do like a lot of nested if statement And I can do that too. Okay, so I'm going to say if age is less than 18, okay, and else, okay, do something with it, and else just do something with it like this. So usually I want to do something like this, right? I'm going to go through the first condition first, right? If age is less than 18, but then if sex equal male, female first, okay, then I want to return underage female, okay? But then else, that will be male, right? So I'm going to return underage male, okay? But then if the age is less than, actually is larger or equal to 18, then I will do one more time. So if it's female, then this one will be adult female. And if else, okay, that will be male, so return adult male, like that, okay? See, this one, I think, you know, it's it's more complex, right? But it's relatively easy to understand what it's doing. And then you can go ahead and apply this formula back into the row, okay? So when you apply this back into the row, you gotta do the apply on the data frame itself. So right now, I'm gonna do df_stu dot apply, meaning that I want to apply this onto each of the rows, okay? So I'm gonna apply categorize by age and sex, okay? So it's kind of long, right? And then I'm gonna make sure that the row goes into my function, which is axis equal to 1, okay? If you put axis equal to 0, we're actually gonna input the column, which is wrong. So I will axis equal to 1. So that's gonna be all the rows go into the function one by one, okay? And if I run this one, you're gonna see that I have adult female, adult underage female, and things like that, right? And then I can just, you know, rewrite or create a new column in my original data using assignment again. So df still, and then the new name would be category, like that, okay? And let me just show you how it looks. So df_stu, okay, which is kind of a lot. So let me just pick just one particular column called sex, age, and then category dot head. Okay, as you can see, that works perfectly. Okay. Okay, in the kind of like the last section of this topic is actually to go even further than just the data frame. You can actually use apply with the group by. So that's like a level, another level deep into the group by, okay? So you can think about it like this. Once you use group by, it's almost like you separate your data into multiple sheets, right? But then you want to apply certain operation into each sheet and then bring the result back into the main table to display it. Okay, so this one, it's super powerful, but in the same time, super confusing for the newcomer. So it's okay, just take your time with it if you need it, okay? But super powerful if you want to do it, okay? But let me show you how it works, okay? So first, I want to separate my data into groups like this. Okay, so the groups, the columns called categories, right? So I want to do df_stu dot group by, and then by equal category. Okay, something like this. Okay. So first of all, I want to just check real quick, you know, what constitute each of the sheets. Okay, so I'm gonna just do the size. So okay, I need a new variable called df_stu group, okay, something like that, okay? And again, you can think about this variable as a collection of sheets separated by the category. Okay? So how many rows are in each of the sheets? Okay? So df_stu, okay, group dot size. So first to check real quick. Okay? So right now I have 4 groups, right? And then each of the groups or each of the sheets contain this many rows inside. Okay? And then maybe I can just check the number of unique values in here. So df_stu group dot n unique. Okay. I think that one is a bit too much, but again, it goes into each of the sheets and then collect from each of the columns how many unique items are in there, and then display it back into the main table. Okay, so that's what it is. A lot of things go behind the scene in here. Okay, but what I want to show you is actually this one. Okay, so I want to create, an operation that calculate the average age of student. Okay, where the father is teacher, and then vs the one that father is not a teacher. Okay, so for example, something like this is pretty convoluted, right? But what I want to do is actually I want to separate the student by the fact that the father is teacher or not first. Okay, and then I want to go into each of the sheets and then apply the average age operation into each of the sheets. Okay, so that's kind of like involving group by, okay, and then you have to do the apply of the particular operation into each of the sheets and then bring the result back into the main table. Okay, so that's a lot, right? That's a lot, right? I'm not going to go to this in detail, but usually I ran into this situation from time to time. Okay, and the way that I would do is actually to kind of do things in a more linear way first. Okay, so first I do something like this. So before I even try to apply anything into my group, I want to kind of separate things out into just one group and then do the operation that I want first and then kind of use it in my apply function. Okay, so first let me show you this one. Okay, so for example, I use my kind of like the group by objects, right? And I want to extract the key out. So it will be the group list. Okay, first I do the group list. Okay, if I were to print the group list, I will have something like this. Okay, I have 4 groups. Okay, not surprising because you only have 4 things in that particular column. So okay, what I do next is actually I want to get the group. I just want to get the first group. Okay, so this one I want to get the group that has like the first occurrence of this, which is I guess adult female in this particular example. Okay, if I were to just kind of look into this data in here, you can see that this one is the group that has the same category called adult female. Okay, so I just take one group out and then I want to do something with it. Okay, so first I want to create a filter, that kind of describe how that check whether the father's job is teacher or not. Okay, so if I can do this, then I can just do df field teacher, right? I can do this one. Let me show you this. If I do df field teacher, then I will get only the row with father job equal to teacher. Okay, but then if I do the other way, which is tilde, that's the opposite of teacher, right? Now I can filter the other row, which is something else that is not teacher. Okay, something like that. Okay. All right, so what I can do next is actually I can extract this logic where I'm going to calculate the age of the student whose father is teacher by using this particular operations, right? And I'm going to create another mean value of the age of the student that whose father is not the teacher, okay? And what I want to do is I'm actually want to return whatever I have in terms of a series, because that will give me kind of like the things that goes out into the main table, okay? So let me show you what happened here, okay? So this is what actually comes out from one of the sheets, okay? So the first sheet, this is what I do, okay? But here's the thing. Actually, what I do after I did all of this by hand, okay, and then prototyping things like this, I just comment all of this again one more time, okay? And I copy all of this and I put it in here like this, like that, okay? And all I do is actually change this thing into df. That's all I do, okay? And actually, I should return this one too, return, like that, okay? And you can see that I prototype things in here, and I use that as the apply function in here, okay? And what I do next is actually, I'm going to do stu student group, dot apply. So again, this one, I'm actually going to apply my logic into all the sheets, not just the row, not just the column, but the whole sheets, okay? And I'm going to do average age of teacher, okay? Oh, can I do this one? Groups, okay. I get something in here. Oh, actually, this one's wrong, sorry. I need to do this one. Actually, eliminate this one. Okay, sorry. I only need this. Okay, I don't need the first two rows. Okay, let's do this. There you go. Okay, so once I do this, then I can see that I can go into each of the sheets, right? And then apply my operation and calculate the age of student whose father is teacher and not a teacher. Okay, so this one is kind of trivial, right? But then what I'm showing you is that I can design my own logic, to whatever I want with the apply function, and I can apply this logic to various type of data, right? In here, I apply to the sheet or the data frame. I show you that I can apply to the row, and I can apply to the column. So there are many ways that you can do it, and it's if you get kind of familiar with this concept, it's actually quite powerful ways of managing your data. Okay. Okay, I think that's a lot for today, okay? I know that you guys are very, very tired, so I think this is done all for today. So thank you for coming. I'll see you next week.